I want to draw out a little bit from India now and talk about the fact that, I think till June 2008, about 8% of News Corp's revenues came from the digital space. From what I have checked on your website, and FIM, that's Fox Interactive Media, seems to be really the fastest growing. Tell us how you see the digital space.
Well, what I would say about it, I see it as being very, very early days yet. We bought this MySpace when it had 20 million visitors. It now has way over 120 million worldwide. In America, it's completely predominant in social networking, which is quite different from people going directly for information. So, there are different uses for it. Myself, when I go to the web, I log on to thewallstreetjournal.com because there it keeps me in touch.
Fox Interactive Media, when even the online versions of the newspapers are a part of that. Monetizing the online digital copies of newspapers, do you feel that has been entirely successful? And I don't mean just for News Corp, for anybody in the business.
No, it's been on the whole very difficult because it depends entirely on advertising. And there's so much advertising space available, the rates are very low. The Wall Street Journal is quite different. It's the one paper in the world that has succeeded in charging. Well, Financial Times has less than 100,000. We have about 1.25 million people who pay.
Subscribe.
They subscribe to it, as well as us having another $100 million worth of advertising on it. So it's it's interesting. I mean, that I think will become one of the major earners and parts of News Corporation over the next 5 years.
But you see other newspapers being able to replicate Wall Street Journal?
No, I find it not. I mean, people will go there for, it depends what it's for. But the big general newspapers are finding it very hard. They're on the web, they're getting quite a lot of people going to them, they sell advertising, but if they say, look, you've got to subscribe to this, everybody goes away.
So, Mr. Murdoch, what is then the future of the newspaper? Because where the physical format is concerned, you're seeing declines, and where the online
I don't know about that. I think newspapers that are not doing a good enough job decline. Newspapers in America became very monopolistic, and I think proprietors became lazy, and journalists became self-indulgent and started writing for each other and lost touch with the public. So circulations have suffered. But the Wall Street Journal circulation goes up, and I think that's okay. In London Sun circulation is down from its great heights, but it hasn't gone down in the last couple of years. We've reacted properly and pushed it very hard. You've got to stay in touch with your public.
The world knows that you're a very proactive entrepreneur, owner of newspapers. How do you ensure that your editors stay in touch with the public? Do they stay in touch with you?
Yes, to a large extent, not totally. There's too many of them. I stay in touch with them, we meet, and certainly I appoint them, which is the important thing. I try and be sure that you have an editor that shares two things. You share the same values as you have in sort of free markets and civilized society, and on the other hand, someone with the skills of really communicating and the use of words.
The newspapers under the News Corp group had been very hawkish going in when US embarked on this war on Iraq. Today, Rupert Murdoch, you're endorsing Barack Obama, and we all know his views on the war on Iraq. How do you explain the
Well, there's two or three things to say about that. We're not endorsing Barack Obama. We endorsed him in the primary against Hillary Clinton, that was all. We've not made any endorsement at all vis-a-vis
the Republican
the main election. No. And I think we're already seeing Barack Obama changing his position, moderating it on one thing after another. He's a very, very tough politician. He's a very intelligent man. The question is he going to be the prisoner? I speak as a businessman now. Is he going to be the prisoner of the unions, and the various people who are supporting him at the moment. I'm not at all sure he'll win. I think he has a real uphill climb. At this stage, if you look back at the last half dozen elections, the challenger like this should be a long way ahead in the polls. And he's not, he's only sort of 1 point in front. So he has he's got quite a long way to go. I'm not certain that
Would
he'll
you
win.
like to see him win the the United States of
well,
America
I'd be
getting
very-
its first mixed race
I
president?
think it's very, I think both candidates, it's very uncertain how they would turn out as president. John McCain is a bit unpredictable on many things. He's a very decent man. He would certainly be for smaller government, which is a good thing. Whereas Obama from the left would be for bigger government, but he would have an opportunity to really speak out and lead maybe the country back to much greater social cohesion, reform the education system, and that sort of thing. But if you're going to reform the education system, he has to be prepared for a tremendous fight with the teachers' union.
The immediate biggest challenge for the next American president will be the economy. At News Corp, how are you seeing, or how are you reacting, how are you seeing the impact of the US slowing down and even perhaps, as many say, going into a recession, impacting the media business?
It's not impacting us, our television network at all. Our television local stations are being impacted to some extent. You know, the big car companies have cut back on their advertising, that sort of thing. But we'll come through that. America's an amazingly resilient country. It'll be fine. But it may be a few years. And I would worry only that with the huge, doesn't really affect India this so much, but with China it does, the tremendously competitive nature of Chinese industry causing job losses, which in turn can cause protection and a slowing down of globalization. Because I believe the globalization we've seen and the freedom of trade that's been growing between countries is the greatest possible driver of growth and wealth
prosperity.
And prosperity for the whole world.
We know that News Corp fourth quarter, the fiscal 2008 ends June 30th. But do you feel that the next year's results will see an impact? Because we've been speaking to groups like WPP and Martin Sorrell, and they feel that 2009 is when you're going to see the impact of this slowdown on bottom lines.
We could see a slowdown, not a decline. We have a lot of things that are still growing very well, like satellite to home television in India. Not in India yet, we only have a small part of that, but in Italy.
Sky Italia.
Yeah, and our cable channels like Fox News and so on are growing and growing. So we have a lot of things to offset any decline in advertising. So we don't think we're going to have a bad year or a decline.